By the gods and goddesses, greetings. This is the spoken biography of Virgin Steele. Part 1, Manifesto. We were born to defy. We were born to heed our own heart's call and our own voice. Amidst a sea of lame excuses, mediocrity, conformist rhetoric, and other bland sentiments that pass for metal and rock music these days, we stand as an island, a fortress, a bastion, and a haven for the foundation of what we consider to be the true metal faith, and perhaps the classical music of the 21st century. A testament to the power of the will, exploration, and self-expression. An alternative to the ever-present corporate menace that passes for popular music these days. As we enter the new millennium, we see our goal to be a union, a convergence of various forms into one. Music, be it rock/metal-based, classical-based, or whatever. Poetry, theater, painting, sculpture, and film can and will be molded, blended, and reborn in new and exciting shapes. Shapes and forms which can enrich our world, galvanize our emotions, open our senses, our hearts, our minds to spheres, planes, and oceans of unlimited possibilities through which we may see our universe and our relationship to it in a new and different light. To truly live, to drink the new wine, to bathe in waters both strange and beautiful, to embrace what was lost and what may be found. This is the spirit which drives our passion ever onward. We invite you to join us on this quest for life, adventure, and the pursuit of all forms of emotion, expression, and passion. By the gods and goddesses, it is time to fly! All are welcome, all are one. The gate of kings and queens is open for those who have the wish and the will to walk on through. After the fire, water, wrath, storm, pain, and tears, we will meet again in honor, faith, and love. Don't be late. Introduction, or a Symphony of Steel.
Dawn rises, and with it, my anger. My hatred knows no bounds. I will end this day in victory.
From a whisper to a scream, the sound is barbaric, romantic, bombastic yet subtle, grandiose yet earthy. It is a call, a shout, an invocation to freedom, and the continual awakening to the awareness that every moment of life is lived to its fullest potential. It is a force, a sacred quest that drives Virgin Steele on. Ah, yes, the name. People have often asked me, what does the name Virgin Steele mean? It means a fresh approach, a new lease on life, pure metal, baptized in the flame of life, full of hunger and power, rich with dignity and majesty, with an awareness and respect for tradition, but combined and fueled by a desperate need to carve out new frontiers of expression. To take the music as far as it can possibly go, to break the boundaries wide open. There are no limits. Another question often asked in this day and age of people and their need to affix labels on things, thereby wrapping everybody up in tight little boxes, is, what do you call your music? And how do you categorize yourself? There are three terms I like to use when discussing the Virgin Steele sound: romantic expressionism, symphonic blues-based metal, and my favorite, or more appropriately, the one that most aptly conjures up the sound of this music in my mind, barbaric romanticism. All things are possible in the land of Steele. From the symphonic grandeur of Emulath or I Will Come For You, to the delicacy of Straw Girl or Last Rose of Summer, to the brutal crunch of Prometheus, the fallen one, the hidden god, or the weeping of the spirits, one can tell that we are an eclectic band that delights in risk-taking and experimentation. We do not care about trends or being the flavor of the month. We are here to create music that will have a lasting value, like the great masters. If that sounds somewhat pompous, then hey, so be it. We are not put on this earth to conform to what someone else's opinion of us is. We are here to be all that we can possibly be within ourselves. Do what thou will. With our music, we wish to invoke the spiritual nature locked within all men and women. Our thoughts harken back to an older pantheon of gods and goddesses, such as Dionysus, god of the vine, and Demeter, goddess of the grain, Isis, the queen of heaven and earth, and the eternal consciousness of the universe, the great earth mother and spirit of fertility, and her union with the sky father. It is our belief that all religions and myths speak essentially about the same occurrences. There may be differences in dialect, syntax, or phrasing, but the fundamental beliefs are all the same. Just as with language there are different words or dialects, but we are all expressing the same ideas and communications. It is our dream to convey through music a feeling of power and divinity within oneself, and a feeling of togetherness with all the people on this planet, as well as a strong sense of personal freedom and spiritual well-being. Music is the great unifier and universal language. It crosses all boundaries. On stage, we are striving to commune with the infinite, searching for that spark, where the life stream touches eternity. We yearn for that moment of exultant glory where we and the audience transcend. It is raw, sexual, earthy, spiritual, yet tangible. Everyone should come away from the show feeling transformed. Something new has come into the room that was not there before we began playing. Ultimately, we wish to smash through the barriers of ignorance and reach that divine place of freedom where you can go out on a limb and become a god or a goddess. A journey to transport one through chaos to enlightenment and beauty. That is the goal. Part 2, Awakening or Birth Through Fire. What I remember most is the primitive, powerful pounding sound of guitars, bass, drums, and keyboards, combined with an eerie, hypnotic vocal. I would hear them playing in the basement beneath my room, an unearthly, metallic roar. They, being my brother Damon on organ and piano, my sister Danae on vocals, and their band Stalk. They rehearsed nightly in the basement of our parents' house for years, and me being only 7, 8, or 9, 10 years old at the time, and having school the next day, I would fall asleep to them playing Black Sabbath or Blood Rock's DOA or perhaps Mountain's theme from an imaginary western. Their sound permeated my soul and changed me forever, but the roots of it all actually go back even further. I remember my first portable record player. It was given to me several years earlier. I would listen to music and get excited or be soothed depending on what was being played. Eventually, I would fall asleep next to it, and in my hands I held not a toy. In my hands every night I fell asleep, there was a 45 RPM record, generally something classical like Beethoven or Chopin. These affinities, this passion for music, led me quickly on the road to learning to play and compose myself. I began piano lessons at the age of 8. By age 11, I was performing in my first rock band, Phoenix, which is perhaps kind of prophetic in light of later events which sidelined me and Virgin Steele. No matter what happens, we keep rising from the ashes. The steel wheel rolls on. My quest for musical knowledge led me to study formally at a 2-year music college where I met a tall, Led Zeppelin-loving bass player named Joe O'Reilly. He and I began jamming together regularly and thought about putting a band together. A few months after we graduated from college, I came across an advertisement in the local music paper, Good Times, for various musicians seeking a lead singer. The advertisement mentioned that there was an upcoming tour planned. There wasn't. Naturally, I was very intrigued. Upon phoning the number in the ad, I spoke to two guys named Joey and Jack. We arranged to meet at a nearby rehearsal studio the next day. I arrived right on time, eager to go, but there was nothing scheduled for us as Jack had forgotten to book the time. Typical musician first meeting chaos. I suggested that he and the drummer come back to my house where I had all my gear set up to afford them the opportunity to hear my singing and keyboard playing. I played 3 songs for them: No Quarter by Led Zeppelin, Child in Time by Deep Purple, and Catch the Rainbow by Rainbow. They liked what they heard and asked me to join the band on the spot. While I was interested, I had yet to hear them play. I suggested that we jam together first, which we did a day or so later. I thought that Jack and Joey were great. The same could not be said of their bass player, so I suggested my friend Joe O. They agreed that Joe was better than the guy that they were working with. Ergo, Joe was in, their guy was out. And it is from these small beginnings that Virgin Steele was born. After rehearsing for 3 weeks in my basement, we entered the studio to record what we thought would be only a demo. It was, in actuality, Virgin Steele 1. The album was recorded mostly live in the studio with very few overdubs. The entire thing cost less than $1,000 and took about a week to record and mix. As I mentioned earlier, we thought we were recording demos, but we began sending our demo out to all the various metal and rock magazines and fanzines. They all liked it, and interest began to build. Fan mail started pouring in, and then Shrapnel Records president Mike Varney called us. That call was to inform us of his intention to include us in his US Metal Volume 2 compilation album. The featured track was Children of the Storm from Virgin Steele 1. After the release of US Metal Volume 2, the floodgates opened. More people knew about us, more fans were writing, so we felt that we should press up the demo/album ourselves to see what would happen. The first pressing of 5,000 copies sold out in a matter of weeks. I sold many from the trunk of my car. I drove boxes of VS1 records to distributors all over the east coast of the States. Before the second pressing of 5,000 sold out, we had several label offers. Things looked great. We were sparking interest in record companies, and our fan mail was becoming more interesting. 2 letters in particular stand out. One from a young band who were from Seattle, their name was Queensryche, and another from a California band who called themselves Metallica. The best offer we received from a record company came from an English label called Music for Nations. We signed with them and were actually their very first release, MFN1. We were later joined on this label by Metallica, Wasp, Manowar, Merciful Fate, Rat, etc. It was a very exciting time. It was the new wave of American and British heavy metal, and magazines like Kerrang and Metal Forces in England were giving us great reviews. In the USA, we began supporting many great bands like Motorhead, Crocus, Riot, The Rods, and Manowar, with whom we later did a very successful German tour in 1987. With the dawning of 1983 came our second album, Guardians of the Flame, and 2 EPs titled A Cry in the Night in Europe and Wait for the Night in the States. That year would prove to be very successful for us, and the prospects on the horizon were even brighter. However, there was tension and disarray in the ranks. Jack and the rest of us were not seeing eye to eye on a musical level, and in 1984, he began recording a solo album with Riot singer Rhett Forrester. Meanwhile, Joe O, Joey, and I started jamming with my good friend Edward Persino. We began rehearsing some new songs I had written, which included Don't Close Your Eyes, Thy Kingdom Come, and Noble Savage, among others. In addition, Edward and I discovered our collaborative potential. The first song we completed was Obsession. The second was The Evil in Her Eyes. The partnership between he and I had begun, as did the real start of the band. And so we thought it best that Jack continue his solo career. Interestingly enough, we never actually asked Edward to join the band. He just came down with his amplifier one day and never left. Thanks, Ed. I first met Edward when I was about 15 years old, when Mountain Ash, my band at the time, was auditioning for a gig at the local high school dance. I sang Black Sabbath's War Pigs, and after we were done, Edward came over and introduced himself. I knew then and there that we would someday work together, as we established a rapport immediately. If for no other reason, he, like me, had hair longer than most people did at the time, and he also wore stacked-heeled boots. Oh yeah, my band did not get that high school dance gig. I guess we were too heavy with our Black Sabbath covers. Armed with new blood and enthusiasm, Virgin Steele began recording the classic Noble Savage album in 1985. Completed in about 7 weeks and our best album up to that time, I felt that justice was finally being done to the music and the vision. Noble Savage was released in 1986 and has proved to be a milestone in our career. There is no denying the power of that album. Some of our fans rank it as one of the best metal albums of all time. Thanks. 1986 was a busy year for us. Things were going well. We had a great new album that got excellent reviews and sold more than any of our previous efforts, and we began touring the US and Canada quite regularly. We also had a great new label, Steamhammer SPV. We ushered in 1987 with 2 tours of Europe, one with Manowar and another with Black Sabbath. These both proved to be truly wonderful experiences. At this point, we had released our albums in almost every country of the world, including Japan and South America. High on our European success, we began recording Age of Consent in late 1987, with the feeling that 1988 could only be better. We finished the album on July 11, 1988, and it was released in October of that year. Life wasn't easy for us during the years between 1988 and 1992. Our manager had made a royal mess of our career, both financially and spiritually, and with other legal problems rearing their ugly heads, we didn't record another album till '92. However, we still remained strong on the live circuit. In the summer of 1992, we began recording a new album. The sessions began with Teddy Cook, ex-Dio and later ex-Great White member, on bass, and concluded with Rob DiMartino on bass. Rob had played previously with Bobby Rondinelli, ex-Rainbow Doro Sabbath drummer, in a band that also featured Bobby's brother Teddy on guitar and their sister Dorothy on keyboards, and was appropriately called Rondinelli. That band also featured at one time the late great vocalist Ray Gillen as a member, and before Rob joined them, ironically enough, Teddy Cook was their bass player. What a tangled web we weave. I had already known Rob for several years. We met when I came by one day to jam with, you guessed it, Rondinelli. As I was saying, the subsequent album that we began in 1992, Life Among the Ruins, was released in March of 1993, and that summer we completed a headlining tour in support of it in Europe. In 1994, I felt an abundance of energy and creativity, and I came upon the idea to do a double album. Thus, the concept of The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, Parts 1 and 2, was born. I told our new label about my idea, and they were very excited. I wrote about 30 songs on my own, and Edward and I wrote another 25 to 30 songs together. For the project, we chose the best of these. The first part of The Marriage was completed and released in January 1995 and has proven to be a real favorite with the fans. Some say it is even better than the classic Noble Savage. A tour was planned for April with Uriah Heep, and we came over to Germany only to find that their singer, Bernie Shore, had injured himself in a bizarre bicycling accident, and the tour had to be rescheduled for September. We were disappointed, but we knew we'd be back. For the Marriage of Heaven and Hell Part 2 sessions, we acquired a new drummer. Our new drummer came in the form of one Frank Gilchrist. We refer to him as the Kraken, for he lays waste to any city with his drumming. Frank appeared on 3 songs on Part 2. These songs were recorded at the tail end of the Marriage sessions. Part 3, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell Revisited and Beyond. The Marriage of Heaven and Hell Part 1 and Part 2 can function as 2 independent releases, but upon closer examination, you can also see the thread that binds the material together. Musical and lyrical ideas return transformed and disguised, or blatantly recapitulated. There is a sense of closure, yet the search for truth, answers, justice, etc. continues. Vengeance is fulfilled. What is lost is found. That which doesn't kill us makes us stronger. We will all achieve our immortality, divinity, and the quest for beauty, honor, and dignity is maintained with courage in the face of extreme adversity. And then came Invictus. Invictus is the final chapter in this marriage trilogy, and is a primal scream of pure rage, full of power and majesty that one could arm oneself with to combat all the ills of the world. Invictus did wonders for our profile and charted at number 47 on the German long play charts. It is a fan favorite, and we still perform many of the tracks in our live show. Virgin Steele next enjoyed a period of even greater success and high critical acclaim for the release of the world's first true metal opera, The House of Atreus, Acts 1 and 2. Beyond its existence as an album, this sophisticated and orchestrally advanced take on the metal scheme was successfully translated to the theatrical stage. As such, this work, which premiered live for the stage on June 3, 1999, under the title Clytemnestra, der Flug der Atriden, and has accumulated well over 50 performances, been revived several times since its premiere, and continues to be performed, and in fact shows no sign of stopping or slowing down. A wonderful fact, these Atreus albums reached number 24 on the Greek long play charts. Due to the success of this epic piece, we were next able to stage the Marriage of Heaven and Hell / Invictus trilogy / metal opera. The premiere of the marriage saga under the title Hell oder die Rebellen was June 7, 2001 in Memmingen, Germany once again. January through March 2001 saw the band on a full-scale European jaunt which proved to be extremely well received. Upon the return stateside, I began preparing the special stage mixes for all the music used in the presentation of Hell oder die Rebellen, which, as I stated a moment ago, was the much anticipated second metal opera based on the Marriage of Heaven and Hell Invictus saga. This second metal opera has done approximately 30 performances to date and will be revived again, along with the Atreus Clytemnestra work. A new metal opera, Lilith, was introduced again in Memmingen in 2003. This work is based somewhat on ancient Sumerian myths and current life experiences and the endless conflicts and joys between men and women from the earliest days in the garden to now and of course beyond. The album, called Visions of Eden, which featured the music, followed a bit later in 2006, but that is getting ahead of ourselves. In addition to all that I just mentioned, January 2002 also brought us the release of two albums, one titled The Book of Burning and the other Hymns to Victory. The Book of Burning featured 8 new, unreleased songs that were written during several different time periods. Some originated back in the 85-86 Noble Savage era, others were from 1997, the Invictus era. Regardless of when those songs were originally conceived, I rewrote them all during the summer of 2001 and recorded them then as well. The other 8 songs it contains are from the first 2 Virgin Steele albums. These newly recorded versions are far superior to the originals. They contain a much more confident, commanding presence and are bursting with all the experience we have gained over the years. The lineup for those recordings were myself on vocals, keyboards, bass and orchestration, Edward on guitar, Frank Gilchrist on drums, and also the new addition of Joshua Block. Josh played bass on our European Winter Tour 2001. He can be heard playing bass on several tracks for the Book of Burning, and also 6 and 7 string guitars on several tracks. Edward encountered Josh in a music store where he was furiously riffing on the Invictus riff because he saw Ed walk in and wanted to impress him. Edward called me up and told me about the incident, and I growled, "Well, tell him to learn the rest of the song and 15 others and he can come down and audition." I wasn't in a very good mood that day. Well, anyway, Josh did come down and he learned a ton of material straight away, as I said, and did the Winter Atreus tour of Europe with us. Frank G, Josh, Edward and I have achieved a wonderful chemistry and a highly efficient method of working over the years. Together we are unstoppable. Together we are Invictus! back to the recordings I was discussing. Hymns to Victory, the other release I mentioned a moment ago, contains classic tracks from the Noble Savage album up to the House of Atreus selections. It is not the usual run-of-the-mill anthology/best of. I had taken the liberty to remaster all the songs, as well as remix several and provide different alternative versions of a few. Check out the new acoustic version of The Spirit of Steele, for example. Hymns also contains 2 bonus tracks, so all in all, quite an interesting release. In addition to all of that madness, in 2002, I also managed to reissue for the first time ever on CD Virgin Steele 1 and Virgin Steele 2, Guardians of the Flame. Both albums have been remastered and both contain special bonus tracks, liner notes, and artwork. The years 2003 through 2005 saw the band headlining various European and USA club and festival gigs, and also saw the creation of many new songs. I went through a wild period of composition. This resulted in the bringing together of all my ideas regarding paganism to light in the form of the 2006 album Visions of Eden and the previously mentioned Lilith metal opera. The opera, as I mentioned earlier, actually was unveiled in 2003, but the album itself, due to various label mishaps, did not come out until 2006.
Rape of a life, rape of a soul, rape of us all.
Visions of Eden. A little bit about this work. The album Visions of Eden is not about happiness, peace, contentment, or eternal tranquility. It is the opposite. It is about disorder, strife, struggle, dominance, and the annihilation of a culture, a way of life, and the violation and annihilation of a human being. It is a work based on the destruction of paganism, Gnosticism, and the desecration and eradication of the goddess principle that once dwelled so freely within divinity. A massive blow was struck against these early beliefs by first the rise of the Father God principle, and second by the development of the world's organized religions. The album concerns Lilith, first wife of Adam, he of biblical fame as in Adam and Eve and the apple, the snake, and all that fig leaf and rib propaganda, plus ancient Sumerian myths concerning Lilith's relationship with Adam, Eve, and God. However, that being said, in actuality it is really about today, modern times, and how we might have arrived here to this strange place we are now in. In case you were wondering, our future plans include the following: many more concerts. We just performed for the first time in Argentina and Slovenia this incredible summer of 2010. Many more visits to Europe later this year and next year for several festival shows. We just performed at the Rock Hard Festival on May 23rd, which was filmed for the WDR Rock Palace TV show, and we also headlined the Headbangers Open Air Festival in Germany. Plus, we will perform more club shows and more acoustic shows, and also a few more of our special 3-hour marathon shows. USA shows are in the works, as well as European dates, as we do wish to support our soon-to-be-released new album, The Black Light Bacchanalia. Armed with the great new record company, Steamhammer SPV, we have come full circle. We can now finally realize all our epic ambitions. I have ideas for a group and orchestra album, more metal opera type things, a classical album, and yes, perhaps hopefully we can finally issue a DVD and the long-awaited live album. The new studio album that I just mentioned will be released this coming autumn of 2010, and which, although conceptual, is perhaps more in the frame of, let's say, Noble Savage or Age of Consent, where there is a certain concept or thread binding the songs together, but not necessarily a narrative story that one must follow all the way through. In short, a collection of self-contained, kick-ass songs/compositions. Whatever happens, the coming years will provide many new and exciting chapters, both musical and otherwise, to the Virgin Steele story. Of this, I am certain. So, in conclusion, we will never give up or go away. We will always remain. The spirit is still willing, the flesh is strong, and the dream still lives on. How? With true power and grace. The thunder still calls, and the fire burns brighter than ever in the eyes of every enchanted hour. Why? Because I say it is so. We will it to be, and so do you. Until we meet again and beyond, remain forever Invictus.
By the hammer of Zeus!